Rev Wayne Stills, this mic is all yours.
Hey, doing everyone? What's happening? How are you? This is River from Rain Sales, and hold on. I get sort of out here. This is I'm excited to love today. I'm playing a song first, and then I'm going to get right to it with Audsie here, and we're reading from Anxiety to Love. Feels like it's been a long time that we've done this, but I don't think it's been any longer than usual. I think it's been about a week, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be a good day today. Um, I wanted to say something first. You talked about your friend was passing, and this is the last time we've been for now at least, I guess, been on this planet. Remind me of something I said to my daughter last night. She was talking about somebody that was also passing, and remind me of a movie. Although I don't remember the name of the movie. It was a kids movie that I saw a long time ago with well, one of my kids actually, and um the kid, it was a movie about a kid. I don't know, it was one part of the movie where somebody had died, and he and this person saw another, met up with another person, and this other person said to her, "Where's so and so?" And so and the person said, "Oh, she died." And so the person who had asked where she was goes, "Oh, then she could be anywhere." And that answer stuck with me forever, forever, because it was such a beautiful answer. I was like, "Oh, she could be anywhere then." And she right here, she'd be there, she'd be so. And from that point on, whenever I hear someone dies, they can be anywhere. They can be anywhere. And it just reminded me of that. We said this can be someone on this planet. He could be on anywhere, on any planet, anywhere in the galaxy, in the infinite universe, in the infinite cosmos. Who knows where it will be? We have so many choices, and this is one little small little speck in the cosmos that we've created for ourselves as some sort of adventurous playground. It's almost as if one day the new world will not be America, it'll be some other galaxy. And we'll be able to see the new world in that sense, as opposed to just seeing it, beyond the mountains of Olympus. One day, Olympus will be, sort of like Star Trek. One day, hopefully, maybe we'll see. Well, yeah, that just came to my mind, and I thought that I would take a, you know, I I want to just mention that before I play this song, which is called A Place Called Morning. Blissful Morning by Bill Douglas. Bill Douglas. All right. So let's get to it. Audsie, you ready? And From Anxiety to Love, a radical new approach for letting go of fear and finding lasting peace by Corbin Zipko. It's a good book. Go get it. Oh, yeah, this music here. Okay. Uh, so again, From Anxiety to Love, which is a very good book, and it does just that. Not only does it have a lot to say, it has a lot of exercises in here, which will help us. And we do the exercises. I mean, we sort of do them. We do them audibly. A lot of the stuff says write them down, but it's good stuff. So I don't hear you. Is that typical? Are you
Oh, I'm
there?
here.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
I'm
Oh,
here.
good.
Sorry, I
I
was
just,
just
I just,
getting the screen ready.
I just assumed it was me. I just assumed
Me.
it was
It's
mine.
me.
All right. So how you doing?
I'm great. How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm okay. How's my
Good.
sound? I have new earphones. Am I coming in clearly?
Yeah, you
Oh,
sound
good.
perfect.
Good. The earphones are being used as though it's a mic. It's not coming. It's the computer's reading it as a microphone. Odd.
Oh, great. So
Not
it's a dual
it's a
mic
dual thing.
and
It's a mic.
nice.
It's a
Good.
mic earphones. So what's going on? Anything to tell me? Anything new, strange, or weird?
Not so far.
No. Okay.
I think it's pretty much the same level of weirdness.
Yes. Well,
Yeah,
I recommend weirdness. The world's weird, so
might
align
as
yourself
well.
with it.
Yeah,
You might as well. All right. So, From Anxiety to Love. Are you ready? You want to start reading first?
I'm ready. Yeah,
Okay.
we can start reading. I'll just go where we are here, where the
Yeah.
bookmark is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Might as well.
I guess I could backtrack
You back
a
a minute,
bit.
back a little, because that seems to come out of nowhere. That I'm sitting
Yeah,
down
okay.
playing.
So yeah, we were in. Oops, I do. Do you hear that?
I hear nothing. I see the thing moving.
Okay, good. I'm glad you don't hear it because
I
it's
hear
my
nothing.
reader.
Oh no, I don't hear. I just see the thing moving. I see the thing
Okay,
moving.
great. It's fine then. It's just um shoot. Sorry, just a sec. I have
Take your
to
time. Take
figure
your
out how
time.
to shut this off now.
Baby.
Why can't I
I'll see that.
turn off? Okay.
Ah, there you go.
So we were in step 4
Step 4.
last time, which was acknowledging that the fear is coming from our split minds.
Right.
So what's out there is the projection of what's in our mind. So on a superficial level, this means that if I see Susie as immature, judgmental, and catty, then we can say I must have those qualities within myself. What I don't like in another person is what I don't like in myself.
Yeah,
And
like about Corinne. She puts this together from a very, very emotional perspective. Most people tend to look at this, and I do also, from a metaphysical perspective. So he said, I am projecting this outwards. That person is really me. I am that person. There's no duality here. There's no thought. The distance between us is thought. But she's looking at from a much more psychological perspective. And that's great because that's helpful. Because what she's saying is that, So that means this is when we're projecting our own negativity in the person, and we know this, but the person's judgmental attitudes. That person's judgmental. That person's a bum. That person's no good. And then that's what that's the work that we have to do. And she's hitting on that more so than others might who focus on the metaphysical, which is also needed. But this book. That's what this book is good at. Does it make sense?
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Because it puts it into the world
Yeah,
for
exactly.
us to marinate in and see that possibility rather than just going from, nope, nothing's there, no world to see here.
Exactly. That kind of is helpful too, because that needs to get harped on sometimes, because we're not always, sometimes the world can grab us by the you know what, and keep us there. And and we need to remind ourselves that this is the battleground. But this book helps us deal with the world it does the same thing, but it does it in a sort of practical way. It's very practical because we all can approach this. I don't know. It's a very it's just basically it's more psychological. That's basically what it is. It's some simple way of looking at it. She is a psychologist. I think she says she is, right? Yeah. No, I'm not sure. Well, she
I'm
has a
not
very
sure either now.
she has a very psychological approach to this, and I like it.
I think she's a psychotherapist.
She is, yeah. So she has a very therapeutic approach the way she approaches it. Well, she calls the spirit the inner therapist. So there you go.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So,
it aligns for sure.
so which is what when she talks about the projecting. Most people talk about projecting as a metaphysical fact, and they kind of go deeper into that, and I think that's wonderful. And then, but I like how she talks about it as more of a psychological reflection, and I think that's kind of cool.
Cool. Yeah. So, oh man, this guy's still going.
Oh, there he goes. Hey.
I'll just have to do it every time, I guess. That's fine. So, the course goes deeper than this. And from text chapter 21, I am responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience, and I decide upon the goal I would achieve. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I have asked. Again, that's from the text chapter 21.
Right.
And she says every fear and anxiety that we think of as happening to us originates in the sleeping part of our child mind, which believes in an ego. Since part of our child mind is asleep and part of it is awake and home in love, we can say that it is split. Some of the things that we originate and then project from this place are not so nice. Remember, this sleeping part of the mind holds a lot of guilt and fear.
Yeah. So sort of like it's a part of our mind that is we live in a duality, and the part of our mind that is understands this and works with the Holy Spirit to continue working with this idea, and part of the mind that has no clue about this, or works with the ego to continue being clueless and being clueless, and they're sort of working against each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll go on here. I'm certainly not implying new age guilt. New age guilt. The idea that everything bad that happens is the result of negative thinking, negative attitude, bad karma, or a burden from a life, past life. The problem actually goes deeper than that. Bad experiences represent the ego's best efforts to keep you believing in the world it has created. Gosh, it sure does a good job of that too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Frick, it's just it's actually quite brilliant, really,
Sure. Well,
in its own miscreation, right?
Well, isn't all criminal minds are in their own. If they're the better criminal, the best criminals are in their own sense. Kind of brilliant, are they? And that's why they're mastermind criminals.
Yeah.
You look at the ego like he's criminally insane. And we don't tend to like to look at it that way because we are the ego, sort of in a certain sense. So we think we're the ego, so we're not. We're dealing with the sane mind and the mind of the criminally insane, and that's kind of rough. I'm not sure we want to admit that, but that's the mind that we're dealing with. That's the duality,
Yeah. Yeah.
the sane and the criminally insane. You know,
Yeah,
the innocent and
exactly.
the innocent and the criminal, and the criminal, of course, is the belief system. It's not really criminal. It's not and in a sense, that's the crime. The belief in the crime becomes the crime. That's why sometimes if you read the course, it just the word sin is just thrown at you. It doesn't always say the belief in sin. It defines sin, as you know, as the belief in sin. It's not really, sin is not permanent in the course, obviously, but it's not real. But sometimes you're reading it as always, it uses the word sin in a very traditional nomenclature of the Christianity, because it wants us to use almost the course's language, which is powerful. If you're using that language, whether it be through affirmations or just when you read it, so long as you know what the words mean and how the course is defined, you're good. Then suddenly the course comes alive. When you know what Christ means, when you know what Jesus means, when you know what all that stuff means and what they symbolize, the course becomes a sort of active, it becomes 3D.
Yeah. Well, I like to think of sin like as the meaning that it originally meant, which was
Right.
missing the mark.
Yeah. So the arrow,
Missing the mark
making
is
mistakes.
way different than sin.
Yes. Yeah. Missing the mark is just like, it's just, I think it was an arrow. It was a bows and arrows, whatever it was. Archery term. It's an archery term.
Yeah, yeah,
And missing the mark. It was just a mistake. You make a mistake. Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I said. I think I said this to you. I mean, you're insane. You can't be guilty for being insane. You can be guilty for being a bad person, but there's no such thing really as a bad person. There's just an
Yeah.
insane. The more quotes, the more in quotes bad you are, it's just more insane you are.
And it's the more love you need.
Exactly, and that doesn't make you insane at all. It just means you need more love.
Yeah, I love that. Good. So remember, the goal of the ego is to keep guilt in place. The ego wants to stay separate from our source, and it can only do so by maintaining our belief in the separation. The ego uses every painful circumstance we find ourselves in to reinforce its message that what we see is real and that we are bodies. Stub your toe and it hurts. Freak out with a panic attack and the body goes on full alert. If we follow the ego, we become willing participants in its endless and painful roller coaster ride.
The ego is just basically is a butthead. They're a butthead. And when it comes down to it, he's just not. Basically, he's mean based on what we like and don't like. The ego is just mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is, because even when it's trying to say something nice to you, it really doesn't mean it.
No,
There's an underlying evil.
right, passive aggressive, totally passive aggressive.
Right.
Yeah, it's saying one thing and doing another. Yeah, look for that knife in the back when you're on the ego.
I like this painful roller coaster ride, and
Yeah.
she's going to take this further. In the separation theme park, another of the ego's entertaining sideshows is the idea that you are somehow a victim of God's mysterious ways. Oh boy.
Yeah.
For instance, how many times have you heard seemingly wise proverbs like these? Do you want to read these?
Okay. God gives you only what you can handle. If God brings you to it, God brings you through it. God comforts the disturbed and disturbs the comfortable. Wow. I've heard the first one and the second one, but I have not heard the third one.
No, I haven't heard of that one.
And I don't necessarily, I understand the third one. It makes sense, I guess. I'm not sure I agree with it, but it makes sense.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy.
all these ideas place God in the role of comforting. You're during disturbing life. Well, comforting you during disturbing life circumstances, which is nice. But comforting you, all deliberately disturbing you, but comforting you after deliberately disturbing you would be a cruel and manipulative, and God does not manipulate. God only loves, or as the Course puts it, God is but love, and therefore so am I.
Mm.
It is worth repeating that God does not bring you pain in any form ever.
Hang on. There's a song coming, Wayne. It's by Netta Boyen. And she sings, God is but love, and therefore so am I.
Okay.
I can be only love. There we go. That's it.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. God is not separate from you, and all pain and fear is a result of the split mind. All right. So, that's, in other words, these are nice, but that this is more of the Job theory about up here. It's not God sends Satan to mess with you.
Yep.
You know, and then as a result, no, and he gives you back everything. And if you ask questions, he tells you to shut up.
Yeah, and then at the end, he's like, "Just kidding.
Yeah,
Here
just
you go," and
kidding.
he goes
Yeah.
to give it to you. No, just
Yeah. He's messing with you, and just that's what he does. If you don't like, he's kind of like he's like the Q, but even tougher. But
Nice.
all right. So clearly, we want to find a way to stop calling forth the pain that comes from the belief in ego. Our inner therapist has a better way.
Nice.
That's in quotes. All we need is willingness. The inner therapist takes everything we've made in this dream and turns it into the surface of truth. Let's recap the tips thus far. You find your willingness. That's number one. 2, you commit to getting radically honest with yourself. 3, you look directly at what is coming up in you. 4, you acknowledge that fear is somehow coming from the split mind by saying something like, God isn't doing this to me. This is just my ego trying to keep me focused on it.
Nice.
The last one is very important because once you start doing that and doing that and doing that, you realize that everything is a hoax.
Yeah.
Everything's a hoax. Everything. I mean, you sort of acknowledge the fact that everything's coming from the split mind, and you are creating everything here. And whatever you whatever you make is not really there. It's a total joke, and everything becomes a lot easier to deal with. And then when you see somebody that's actually and that you're projecting, it's okay that you're projecting. It's what you do.
Yeah, that's what is being done. That's the whole deal, Leo.
And so long as you know that, and you see yourself in somebody else, the forgiveness comes much easier. And you see the hoax, and all this stuff doesn't bother you on TV anymore, and you're not frustrated. You're so calm now. You know, I mean, I used to be so scared to death every time I saw a graveyard. I used to get bummed out. Yeah, and now it's like, you know, all that is the ego trying to remind me by having to look at graveyards all the time.
Yeah.
That's why the graveyards are there. There's no people in there. There's not one person in that graveyard.
No.
They're all bones. There's not even any people there. So obviously, what is there? But stone, dirt, and bones. The people aren't there. They're somewhere else.
Yeah.
So why should I be scared? Why should I be bummed out? Why should I let those stones and dirt remind me that I'm going to die or some stupid shit like that? So I just look at that from now on. I go, the ego's doing that. Now those stones remind me of God. So every time I see that now, it reminds me that there is a God and the ego's a joke. Mm-hmm. So that the cross reminds people of God now instead of death penalty. No one goes to the cross now and reminded of the ancient Roman death penalty.
Yeah.
Reminded of God. So same, I look at the graveyard now. If I walk by one or I drive by one, and I think of God, and the ego's like, oh man.
Yeah. Oh man,
it doesn't work
Jesus,
anymore.
I ain't got that.
It doesn't work anymore. I mean, it's just he has work on other stuff. Just pain.
I do have to say though, there was a period for me, and sometimes it comes back, although not as intense, is the fear of the realization that everything is a hoax.
Oh, I see. So
where it's just like, oh my gosh, like none of this is really like that realization when I'm as the person Audrey
Right, yeah.
realizing it is fearful or was very terrifying.
Yeah. Well, it is
So
at first. It is at first because you realize that you're the one who made this mess. And who you think you are is the mess and part of the
yeah,
mess.
yeah.
It's like, whoa, I'm part of the mess and part of the problem. And therefore, I am the monster that did all this. All the stuff that I've been complaining about, also that I'm blaming as being the problem for all these years, my whole life, is now I realize I'm the problem. So when I was younger, my mother used to always say, "Why do you hang out with your friends like that? Why
Mhm.
there's bad influences?" And one day she realized that I was the problem.
Oh boy,
And she
you
realized
were
that
the ringleader.
I was the bad
Oh
influence.
no.
And it's just so she was that's just what's happening here. We realized that we're the problem. So
Yeah, I just had that thought the other day too, because I was thinking about relationship from the whatever. I'm not going to give the details or whatever, but it's just, I was like, oh my God, what if it's not that other person that's the problem? What if it's
right,
my kid?
right, exactly.
Oh, yikes.
Well, I'm lucky. I know it's my kid. I've always known it's my kid, so it's all right. But okay, so that last one is important though. The last one's very
Yeah.
important because if you
Yeah.
know, the more you know what's going on here, the more you know the nature of stuff. That's why the metaphysics is very important. It's very important to know the metaphysics, but it's also very important to know the psychology and the psychology of it, and put them sort of together. I mean, the metaphysics, the psychology of it go hand in hand. And this is like a primer for psychology, I think.
I was just thinking, okay, so
I mean, it's all
in
in the
this,
course, metaphysics, and it's all in
okay,
the course, but this is a
but
primer.
if in this world, like God isn't doing this to me, it's the ego trying to keep me focused on it. But God isn't doing the good things to me either.
That's right. Well,
God
not
isn't doing any of it. It's
no,
just a
but
flow of energy happening that I'm creating a story about.
right. But keep in mind something. This is how very difficult because it's almost a visual thing. But the course does say that we have the Holy Spirit in Jesus. Now, what does that mean, though? So hello,
Just keep going 1 second.
hello. I'll just keep going. Like I said, what
I
does
think
that?
her dog is barking. She had to
Oh,
leave.
okay. Okay. What? I'll wait for her to come back. But I'll just keep talking. What does that mean? What does that mean? The Holy Spirit and Jesus. It's the Holy Spirit is is almost a part of the story. That's how I look at it. It's part of the story of how we function. It is the perfect intelligence within the dream that was immediately put into the dream from the outside by the Father. The Father understands us in essence. The Father is the part of the is outside the dream within is the part of the dream that's outside the dream that's perfect and outside the dream. Because when we wake up, it's non-duality, complete non-duality. There's no more father, there's no more son. That in of itself, the concept of father and son in of itself,
Yeah.
There's duality there. So the father himself has to be a part of the dream in a strange way. So the father has to. The father understands his children's pain. In essence, he understands that he has children that are in pain, and it says his son and the Holy Spirit to get the specifics. Now, that just means that there's a right mind, there's a wrong mind. The right mind is how we connect to God as we understand God here, and He brings us to the gates of heaven, and then we are woken up by woken up into oneness absolute. And one of the best words visuals I have is there's one Star Trek that really explains it very well, and there's one and the oneness and the non-duality is the best in the Good Place.
Oh,
The Good
yeah, the
Place.
good place. Yeah.
Yeah, at the end when they jump off out of paradise
Yeah.
into what appeared to be oblivion, but they were alive. They became little sparks in the very end. So they were there somehow, some way. So somehow it'll always be around, but it's understandable to wake up into oneness and still have some sort of understanding of ourselves, and that's why it's almost impossible to understand what the right mind really is
Mm,
in its entirety. It's the Son of God, and the Son of God becomes the Father, and the Father becomes the Son of God, and the Holy Spirit. All they just melt away, and we become one. And so, in a sense, yeah, we do have. It is all us, but there was the us included all the specifics in terms of multiplicity, which included Jesus of Nazareth and what he did.
right, right.
It includes you, it includes me, it includes people in this room, it includes all of us. So, however you want to slice it, yeah, you did this and we did this, we all did this. But the belief system includes all the people that are in the belief system. And so, it's Jesus is here. He did what he did in history. If you don't wipe it out, it's just because it's a part of our collective projections. There's only one of us here anyway, in
Only
multiple cities.
one of
Remember,
us
remember,
here.
remember I said that to you once, multiple
Yes,
city?
yeah, and the captions were multiple
Yeah,
cities.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. It was really multiplicities, and but it was separated. So what a great term for cosmos.
Multiplicity, multiple cities.
Multiple cities.
I love that too. That was a good little slight of word
Yeah.
change from the Holy Spirit, just
Yeah, no,
giving
I think it was multiple city. That's what it was. That was the name of a city because multiple cities is just not many cities, but it was multiple city because it was multiplicity. So it was multiple city. I think it was, and it was the name of the city. We should call it multiple city. That was funny.
That is so good. Yeah, sorry about that interruption, but
That was your dog.
yeah, that was the dog telling me someone was at the door, even though I didn't hear the door because I have a note on the door that asks people not to ring the doorbell, and they don't now. And then my dog just kind of lightly tells me instead of screamingly when the doorbell rings. So
Yeah, makes sense. Makes
it's
total
pretty
sense.
good, actually. So yeah, everything's tickety boo here, and I missed part of what you said, but I'm gonna go back and listen because
Oh,
it was my question. So,
oh, yeah. There's a great
so
Star Trek that also talks to it. A Voyager, but it would be too difficult. Save it for when we on for August 14th. Be better because you need to see it. It's so complicated.
oh yeah, that'll
Yeah,
be great.
yeah,
Yeah, for our new program.
yeah. It's one of those things where you have to interpret it. Yeah, actively interpret it that way. It can be interpreted in many different ways.
All right, great. So we read the four. I'll
Yeah,
keep going.
we focus on the fourth one, but
Yeah.
you find your willingness. You have just need a little willingness, a small amount of willingness to know God and to leave the ego's painful pain roller coaster and move into the smooth sailing of the Holy Spirit. And then you commit to the getting radically honest with yourself. That's a tough one.
Yeah, radically honest. Yeah.
And you look at directly what's coming at you, coming up in you. I like doing that because everything, whatever feelings are coming up, whatever thoughts are coming up, letting them be there becomes a pleasure when you do it a lot.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the focus just becomes on allowing them to be here, not
Exactly.
necessarily on like the story, right?
Exactly.
It's sort of rising above the whole story. They say
Exactly.
rising above the battleground, but to
Right.
me, that's just cutting out that whole sick story that even has to be involved. That's what's covering up reality for me is a story about what's happening.
Exactly.
That's what's not even true.
And usually it's feelings, all these feelings that are feelings and beliefs. These feelings are trapped inside of these belief systems, and belief systems are trapped inside of feelings. It can go either sort of way. So when feelings come up, if I look at the pictures and thoughts, and the feelings are trapped in them, I just let the feelings and the thoughts and the feelings and the pictures come up and be there.
Yeah.
And I don't try to do anything with them. I just look at them and I be there and I observe them and I see them and if it's anger, let's say I feel angry or I feel sad or let's say angry, I'll just let the anger sting my body, let it get worse and worse and worse until it dissolves. That's what happens.
Yeah, yeah.
It gets worse for about a minute, the anger, because you're letting it just kind of burn, but then the burn goes away.
It makes me think of, as we're saying that, a cat and the hair is no problem. But when there's too much of it, the cat gets the hairball.
Right.
He's got to
Uh,
cough that out.
right. Yeah. And we have hairballs inside of us.
Mm.
Cough
Yeah, hairballs that just
yeah.
can't
That's
flow
good.
through.
Good day for a book. Hairballs in the brain.
Yeah,
Hairballs in the mind. Hairballs in the soul.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just needing they just need a chance to come out. They can still be dislodged. It's just a little more messy.
Yeah, it's like waste. You go to the bathroom, you get rid of the waste, and that's just waste in your mind. It wants to leave. It wants to leave. You have a bad stomach, the food you eat wants to leave.
It wants to.
And
Yeah.
so there's the stuff in your mind that's just negative and making you feel bad and making you think ego thoughts. It wants to leave.
Yeah,
So let it
I
go.
love that. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
let it go.
Just cough those hairballs out.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So you want to read?
Yeah, everything that seemingly happens to you can be an opportunity to wake up, as each situation is repurposed by your inner therapist to prove you with a miracle instead of a grievance, to provide you, to prove you, but also provide you with a miracle instead of a grievance. Nice. And then next page, even if we are feeling anxious and believe that we are helplessly stuck in the ego, there is still a quiet, unchanged part of our mind that remains purely at peace. It is possible to be aware of this quiet, still part of our mind, even in the midst of turmoil. This awareness is touching the split mind. The mind is split at two different levels. All right, here we go. I'll read them. I'll stop after each one and you can talk about them more. Cool. The unconscious level. Here is a split between your awake child mind, which is still at peace in God, and your sleeping child mind, which is anxiously dreaming this wild dream.
So keep in mind the child mind. Is what she's calling the Son of God. She's calling the child mind. So right. It's helpful. So it's some people call it the inner child in psychology. I would imagine she's calling the child mind, and of course I think I'm just guessing. But the way it's written here is the Son of God. That's why the C and the M are both capitalized.
Yeah.
And so the Son of God is split. The Son of God is split between perfection and you and me. And it hides the problem. So, and that's level one. Basically, is the wrong mind. Is the ego.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the wrong mind, ego mind. Nice, good. And then
no, the wrong mind is level two. This is the is level one is the right is the real world. It's where we want to be all the time. We're at peace with God. We're in the cosmos. It's the absolute. Remember the absolute. It's split between job mind and your sleeping mind, which is actually dreaming. Conscious level. Here is a split between your awake child mind. The conscious level here is a split between the fearful force of you.
Audrey or Wayne?
Yeah.
What does she mean by child mind?
I think that means this is Son of God. She's just not using those terms.
Oh, so she calls it child mind. That's just a name. Did she just coin that or?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, instead of saying child of God, she's using child mind because she has
right child mind. I didn't know if it was a psychological one. This is excellent. I have the book. This is an excellent book.
Isn't it? It's fantastic
because it breaks the course down in simplicity.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I'm trying to figure out this 1 and 2 how she has this done here. The unconscious level, because I don't think there's a conscious and conscious. So unconscious here is a split between your awake child mind, which is still a peace in God, and your sleeping child mind, which is anxiously dreaming this wild dream. So she must be talking about the unconscious level is the when we're one, and then the ego game in its entirety, which is the split mind. And then the conscious level is here we are in the split mind with the fearful voice of the ego, the wrong mind, and then the voice of the inner therapist, the right mind. That sound good?
Yeah, well, yeah,
So level one is oneness, complete oneness, what we talked about before, and the ego's game, which is the split mind of duality. And then so and then this level two is just the ego's game, which is right in my mind.
yeah, right and wrong.
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody correct me if I have it wrong. But that's, I mean, if that's not what you said, correct me if you think that's wrong, and then correct me if you think that somehow that doesn't add up, because I always just level one is just the absolute realm, and level two is the realm of duality, and that's the simple way I've always kind of, I never. This is kind of an interesting way of putting it. So
there's the two levels. Whoop. Okay, so this will give some more maybe. As we choose to listen to our inner therapist instead of ego, an inner therapist is Holy Spirit.
right.
Instead of ego, and experience miracles on the conscious level, the sleeping child mind or the child of God is reminded that there is nothing to fear and it can reawaken to its truth. So instead of placing blame on people, situations, or God for causing us anxiety, we can experiment with acknowledging that all fear is coming from the split mind. As we see and learn to heal this split, anxiety falls away. We have the power to see witnesses to fear or witnesses to love. The choice is ours because nothing is outside of ourselves.
Huh.
Wow.
All right. Nothing's outside of ourselves. That's the key right there. That last line sums it all up.
Yeah.
That's the key to the entire situation. The hardest thing in the world is to get to a place where you're constantly aware that nothing is outside of yourself. Not only that, you're making everything, you're creating the entire situation and bringing the entire situation to yourself.
Yeah.
Because it goes against what you're doing in the moment, which is creating the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's sort of that, but you want to work. I said this before, but it's like trying to walk forwards and backwards at the same time.
Right.
It's very difficult. So trying to smile and frown at the same time.
Yeah,
And so that's what we're trying to do here by remember it's a dream, but at the same time we're making the dream up. That's why it's so hard.
Okay, I want you to read how blood tests revealed Corrine's split mind.
Oh, okay. A while ago, driven by hypochondria, I had some extensive blood work. My apologies to anyone with needle anxiety. I'm already cringing. I was nervous about it. But followed through it with my appointment anyway. In the waiting room of the hematologist's office, I was well aware that the people around me were not well. Many of them were there for chemotherapy. The thought alone made me extremely uncomfortable, and I wanted to bolt out the door, but I didn't. As the nurses prepped my arm for the blood, I explained why I was there. Each time I named a symptom I had, one particular nurse responded, "That's not good."
Oh, jeez.
You don't want to hear that, man.
Yeah.
It's not good. Then, while drawing blood, she said, "You better not pass out on me."
Jesus.
So, guess what I did? I had a surge of anxiety resulting in the typical vasovagal faint response. I turned clammy and pale and nearly fainted. The staff rushed to put my feet up and lay me down, and they brought my gummy worms and juice to raise my blood sugar as the episode passed. When I saw the doctor afterward, he ordered me even more extensive lab work to be completed in the hospital. Great. I hated needles, but I hated hospitals even more. I could easily go on a rant about the nurse whose insensitive behavior caused me to almost pass out. I didn't have angry. I did have angry, judgmental thoughts, and I wanted to set her straight. But I remember the course principle that sanity lies not in having no angry thoughts, but in having none that we would keep.
Oh, is that ever good?
Yeah.
Because I used to think it was bad just having the thoughts.
No. Anger is not justified. Doesn't mean you're not going to have them. It means don't justify it.
Mm.
Big difference. You know, not justify it means don't blame anyone for it. When you justify it, I'm allowed to be angry here. I'm going to keep this anger because you did it.
Right.
I'm going to yell at you, and sometimes we try to get rid of the anger. That's how we try to deal with the anger by blaming other people.
Yes. Yeah.
So we say, you did it, you did this, you did this. But if you just don't justify it, it just sits there and eventually it leaves. Yeah, that's how I deal with it. So yeah,
Sorry, I interrupted you there, but yeah, but in having none that we would keep. I just love that.
Yeah.
It's good.
Absolutely. So I felt my angry feelings. Yeah, there is. So I felt my angry feelings, but I choose to turn my judgment over to the therapist so they might see things differently. That's great. That's perfect.
That's the work. That's the whole course right there. She's feeling the angry feelings, but turning the judgment over to Holy Spirit or inner therapist.
And
wanting
and allowing herself to see things differently. And that last part is so important too, because if you can do that in the middle of a problem, in the middle of a fight, in the middle of a situation that's overwhelming you, see things differently. Then
that's the whole miracle, guys. That's it right there. That's
After
beautiful.
I left the doctor's office, I was able to look at the situation a bit more objectively. The Course says that we are constantly calling for the witness to feel love or fear or love. That day, I did a superb job of calling forth the witness to fear. I thought she was going to say love. Going in for the test, I was scared. Everything felt very real. I was completely identified with Corrine, and I was worried that my body could be sick. So I called the nurse forth to reinforce my belief in the situation. Now that's and she agreed with this role. So she is acknowledging that she was in charge of that situation. She called it forth. She brought that nurse into her life. This is what happened when I chose the ego my teacher. Thanks a lot, ego. So her and her ego planned this little trip over this and brought this nurse out of thin air. You know, or out of her own conglomeration of from her past, which is obviously that's what we do. We look at our past, we worship our past, we bring it into the present, and we manipulate the present, and we create something that we think that will help help our individualism and our separation. Thanks a lot, ego.
Perfect example. Wow.
Things like that. Then I began laughing, mainly from being exhausted by anxiety, realizing how insane the whole drama has been. I remembered the Course's teachings that I have a split mind on the conscious level, split between the voices of the ego and the inner therapist, and on conscious level, split between the sleeping and the awake parts of the child mind. The inner therapist and the awake child mind were unaffected by my fears. So I could faintly sense a part of me that was still unchallenged despite this unpleasant experience. And this awareness was touching the split mind. I could see an icky picture, but I laughed at it. No, it really had no power over me. I knew deep down that I was safe. That's excellent, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
The following Monday, I went to the hospital for more blood tests. This time, I was determined to call forth witnesses to love. I kept turning to my inner therapist, stating my willingness to remember I was not a body, so I was always safe. Despite this willingness, I felt really anxious again, but I was determined to see the situation differently. I embraced the idea that something in me could call forth peace, even if on the surface my mind felt anything but peaceful. I'm sure we have time, 5 minutes. You want to read?
Yeah, sure. I walked into the hospital lab waiting room and recognized the nurse behind the desk as the mother of a friend from college. Oh, huh. What a relief, I exclaimed upon seeing a familiar, friendly, loving face. I mentioned that I was a bit anxious, and without my asking, my friend's mom decided to do my blood draw herself. We were able to catch up on recent happenings instead of talking about my symptoms. And the nurse saying, "Oh, that's not good." Although I still feel anxious throughout the experience, I was willing to learn that I am not Corrine. I got through the procedure without any difficulties or fainting. As I said goodbye, my friend's mom told me something that stopped me in my tracks. She didn't usually work on Mondays. She was called in about 30 minutes before I arrived.
That's right. Yeah, that whole thing that answers the question we had earlier about do we create our own reality? Is God's create that whole those whole set of circumstances was the miracle in action within were symbols of God, were symbols of the Holy Spirit, were symbols of love in action within the dream.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're there for our lessons, for us to learn. That doesn't come from chaos or from disorder or from non-intelligence. So that came from intelligence.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
came from sure it comes from ultimately it comes from the split mind, the ego's game, but still this comes from the right mind. The right mind created that for herself. She called forth something wonderful.
Yeah. And
She
listen to this. I've never heard this like this. Really, this is really has me going deep here from the text, chapter 28. The miracle does not awaken you, but merely shows you who the dreamer is.
right. Yeah.
Wow.
We're not really awoken until we get to
There isn't
the
that change of mind does not awaken you, merely shows you who the dreamer is.
That's great. That's awesome.
Ah, and then I'll just finish this paragraph here. Calling forth witnesses for love showed me that I am the dreamer of this dream. It reinforced my trust in my inner therapist and in turn reminded the deepest part of my sleeping child mind that it has not left God and has nothing to fear. It showed me that there really is no split mind because we are already home in love and that I am a child of God like all of us. Oh, maybe just finish this one. You have the power. You have great power to call forth witnesses to fear at any moment of the day. But you also have the power to call forth witnesses to love. Because of the ego's addiction to fear, you can't call forth witnesses to love by yourself. You must ask the inner therapist for help. When you call forth witnesses to fear, however, you are doing so alone. You could say that you're calling forth fear with the ego, but the ego is really nothing. It is just a belief inside our own minds.
Yep. So we're asking to get some for nothing.
Wow, this is good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love that idea that we're waking up they're waking up from the dream. That's actually the way I look at it. That we're waking up in the dream instead, but we're not waking up from the dream. You know what I mean? Because we stay in the dream right up until God wakes us up. We can't wake up on our own.
Yeah, right.
As Ken put it, we're brought to the gates of heaven, and then God wakes us up. As he reminded us. So that's how I kind of see it. And it's just basically what she's saying. By focusing on the fact that we are the dreamer, we naturally begin to all the negativity because we begin to call forth witnesses to love a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah.
The flow of natural control begins to flow through us as we realize that we're the cause of everything. And that's what happened to her, I think. The natural cause of her being the cause of everything. She became causative. She became the cause of effects. And so her love and her sense of forgiveness and her tenderness came through, whether she knew it or not, and caused wonderful to happen. She wasn't fearful. Fearful leads to negative actions. Actions that will lead to other people being scared and bringing fear into your life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Beautiful, beautiful session, Rebwin.
Yeah, excellent.
I'm
Fantastic.
grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you everyone in the room for hanging around. Thank you. Say, hey, Regis, what's happening? Regis, by the way, I never thanked you for calling me. I never got back to you. Those 10 days were I was out of my mind, and I wanted to thank you a whole lot for giving me a call and get me off my butt. And thank you everyone else for being around. Thank you, Sharon. Thanks, Dove and Lynn, of course. And Audrey, a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. Without you, I'd be a bum. So thank you so much. And I guess that's it. There's no time for a song. So I'm just going to say goodbye. Take care. I'll see you on Thursday for Throwback Thursday. It's called Pure Light is the name
Oh
of
no, it's next week, Rebwin.
Oh, is it? I thought it was this Thursday. Oh,
No, end of the month.
end of the month.
Last Thursday. Well,
See, I told you I'd be
it's
a
not
bum
the
last year.
actually it's the 24th because we have the 30 or it's the
Oh, I
25th.
see.
Yeah, 25th, the last Thursday.
Yeah, I see. Okay, sorry about
There's
that.
no way it'll be ready for no. We're
I told
not.
you. All right, scratch that. So this Thursday
Yeah.
won't be Pure Light. It'll be something else. So see you Thursday at 12:30, and until then, everyone, peace.
Thanks, you guys, so much. Man, I'll tell you, I saw the anxiety rising up just then. Whoa.
I'm
That's all
like,
for
no.